You are now listening to the Yeshiva League Pass Tip-Off.
Ari, we're back. We're back. It is episode number 4, and for some reason they keep bringing this back every week. I can't explain it at this point. You're going to run out of fingers soon, and I don't know if you can count. I don't know if you could use both hands to count. I don't know if that's within your mathematical.
No, but I have some nice toes. I could always use those.
All right, fair enough. So it is episode number 4. We have a very special guest, but it means a couple of changes. Number one, you could see behind Ari window light, because we're recording this during the daytime.
Yes,
we're recording this during the daytime.
Our first daytime show,
and that is because we have a very special guest. We had to fly in 6,000 miles. No, we didn't. But Zoom from Israel today. From Israel, that's right. But before we get into that, real quick, we have to thank our sponsors, of course. Now, there was no way on God's earth that I was eating holy schnitzel at 7 o'clock in the morning. That was not. No. That was not happening. Not today.
Well, you could eat it if you would have been up all night and then ate it at 7
Well, that was
didn't happen.
2 nights ago. 2 nights ago, I was up all night. But we're not going to discuss why, because it's just not show appropriate. But holy schnitzel is still the preeminent provider of fantastic lunch and dinner food. We'll call it that. So we'll have to check them out later today. And of course, Morton's. You know, they open fairly early. You know, camp is coming. Camp is coming. It's the place.
Camp is coming.
Get your jerseys, get your clothes,
everything.
Get your trunks, what else do you get over there, Ari? You get everything over there.
By the way, when you say trunks, you can get your camp trunks, and also trunks are also considered underwear. So you can get both there. They have it all.
Or swimwear.
Or swimwear. Yes. They have it all. And don't forget, mention the Tip-Off Show podcast and get 20% off your entire purchase.
20% off. What's better
the
than
entire purchase.
Entire purchase. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Central Perk.
Speaking of breakfast.
That's where you go for your breakfast. That's where I should have gone this morning. But alas, I did not. No. Moish, the whole crew there. Check them out. Outdoor eating. Spring is coming. I think the snow is done.
Supposedly, even though it's like freezing today.
I think the snow. Well, I don't go outside, so wouldn't know. And what about your friend Adam B. Kaufman? What about him?
He's everyone's friend. Adam B. Kaufman and Associates. He is the predominant lawyer here in the 5 towns and across the country. He is international. He is everywhere. If you're looking for,
are you making that up?
No, it's true. Well, lawyers could be everywhere. Everyone works internationally these days. So any litigation, business, mergers, acquisitions, real estate, wills. Call Adam B. Kaufman and Associates.
And last, and of course least, it's the Ballers Basketball Academy.
Ballers Basketball Academy. If you're looking for the numero uno #1 basketball camp to send your kids here in the 5 towns, end of summer, August 2021. It's going to be August 23rd to 26th here at Hafter. All 3 gyms are going to be hosting, going into 1st through 8th grade basketball camp, NBA players. Anyone you want to get better at ball, you want to have a good time.
Anyone you want,
play league,
like anyone,
anything you want. Yeah, we do it all there.
Okay,
that's how we roll.
Now,
speaking of rolling, I think we're ready to roll.
Now that's a great segue. I'll tell you why, Ari. That's a great segue because you might be, Ballers might be the greatest basketball academy here in the 5 towns for the end of the summer. But there are some other basketball academies worldwide, and some of those programs are run by our guest today. I mean, that was the best segue I had. Honestly, it was weak. It was a little weak. But we're going to bring him in straight from Israel. It is Tamir Goodman. Tamir, welcome to the show.
Thank you guys so much for having me. It's a great pleasure.
And thank you for being here. You were one of, I think Ari was Tamir was the first guest that we
Yes, he was the first. In the tip of our minds, you were number 1. It turns in you're number 2 or 3, but number 1 in our hearts. Just so you know, Tamir, you were your scheduling has been a little tough and lockdown, but we appreciate you bearing with us and coming on to the show today.
Thank you so much for thinking of me and for your patience.
Our pleasure. So let's delve right into it. I know that you are a busy man, a lot going on. So with the name Tamir Goodman, you don't need an introduction. The story, everyone, especially people my age, know the story, know the legend. You started off as a nice yeshiva boy playing basketball as a youngster, and then you elevated your game quickly and you before you knew it, obviously I'm going through it quickly, a lot of hard work and dedication in your craft, and you turned out to be a top 25 recruit in the country. So why don't you just tell us briefly about growing up, and when was the first time, I guess, how you realized that basketball could be something special for you that you could foresee in your future as a dream to become a reality?
Yeah, well, I was very blessed where I grew up and how I grew up. I grew up in Baltimore, Maryland, and I had a very supportive family. And I can remember playing in the backyard with my brothers one day, and they were older than me, and they beat me, and we came into the kitchen, and I was crying because I lost. And they looked at my mom and they said, "Ima, tell Tamir to just chill out. It's just a game where his older brothers were supposed to beat him. Why is he over there crying?" And I looked at my mother and I said, well, basketball doesn't just mean a game to me. It means a lot more than just a game. I really love this game, and I'm very dedicated to the game. And my mother and my father of blessed memory, they showered me with unconditional love and support, and they knew that I wanted to play Division I college basketball and professional basketball, and they never made me feel like that would be impossible. And from a Jewish perspective, they also gave me the green light. And also Coach Katz lived 2 blocks away, and he was my older brother's coach. And at a very young age, I got to learn from an incredible basketball mind, because I only had to be in school from 8 to 3:30. My older brother, who was on the team, was there for high school. He had to go for davening at 7:30, and he'd get done at like 6:30, and then they go straight to practice. So I'd go with my brother, and I'd shoot in the gym before class, and then after school, I wouldn't go home with my friends. I'd stay until 6:30 in the gym, and then I'd watch practice, and Coach Katz would give me drills on the sideline while the older players were practicing. And so I really grew up in an incredible environment where on the court and off the court, I had all the support and education that I needed. And I felt like I'm very, very blessed for that.
I think for
Right.
I think for a lot of kids, growing up, I mean, every kid sort of wants to take basketball to the next level, right? I mean, how many 7, 8, 9-year-olds, you're out in the driveway and you're shooting and calling Kobe. And obviously for you, you just described how this was your dream. But when did people started recognizing it in you? When were people telling your parents, like, hey, your son's like really something special? I mean, how old were you when others started recognizing, that you were sort of ahead of your age talent wise?
So like when I was 9 or 10 years old, Coach Katz told my mom that she wasn't going to have to pay for college, that I was going to get a Division I basketball scholarship.
Wow. That's an early time to notice that.
And then, I'd start riding my bikes down to the park, and they wouldn't let me play. I was the only Jewish kid there. And like in the summertime, and I just practiced ball handling on the sideline for like 10 hours, all day until the nighttime, and watch the games with the older guys playing. And eventually, like, it would get dark outside, and they didn't have enough players to play 5-on-5. So they let me play just for like a couple of minutes. And I'd literally practice ball handling on the sideline the whole day just for those couple of minutes. And then when I got in, I wanted to show the older players that I could play with them, even though I was really young. And slowly, I started establishing my reputation around Baltimore. I played varsity in 7th grade. I started in 8th grade on varsity, even though I was only in middle school. And then 9th grade, I actually didn't play basketball because one of the rabbis in my school said that, no one's ever going to accommodate you. Really, what are you going to be able to accomplish with basketball? Is this really what Hashem wants from you? You should probably go to yeshiva and stop playing basketball. So
wow, so that's you already left with a little resistance, I guess, at an early age to give up your dream of playing professionally or in college, at a very young age.
Not so much from my shul, and not so much from. It came more from the school, not so much from my parents. But I said, what, if I'm going to leave, I might as well go to a Chabad school, because I loved Chabad and
Chabad's always down for anything. So
exactly. So I went to Chabad school. I gave up basketball in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I walk into class on the first day of school, and they study Torah before you even pray. So even like literally the first second of school, on the first day of school, the rabbi opens up a Chabad text, and he's like, every single person in this world Hashem brought to this world for a unique mission, and everyone has their unique way of making a Kiddush Hashem through their mission. And the whole idea of the world is uplifting the physical to the spiritual so that Hashem could call it this place his home and whatever you're doing throughout the day. So I'm like, well, why am I not playing basketball then?
Right.
You know, so
there was a calling.
Yeah. So I had to go to Chabad to kind of get the total green light that that's really what Hashem wanted from me. But I made a commitment that I was going to go to school there, and I finished out the year.
Right.
And then I called Coach Katz, probably around Pesach time, and I said, "Hey, if I come back to Baltimore, can I play for a Talmudic Academy? Can I play for you?" I was on the payphone in the yeshiva lobby, and
did he give you a hard time?
Out,
did he hardball you a little bit? He's like, I don't know. We have another point guard.
Right.
Sure. He goes,
it was a very short conversation.
Yeah, I never forget exactly what he said. He said, if you come back to TA, I'm gonna paint your name on the baseline. That's what he told me.
Oh, so he was probably, he saw you said he saw the greatness, but I wanted to
wait,
to harp
Ari,
on one
come on,
thing.
hold on.
What?
Obvious follow-up. Did he paint your name on the baseline?
He didn't paint my name in the baseline, but it was so good to be reconnected with him because he was always a father of mine. I mean, he is till today. We speak almost every single day till today.
Right. Wow. That is unbelievable. So I had a question. So it's funny, you said the word Chabad text. So, which is actually where I was going to kind of go with our interview a little bit. When you say text to our generation, they don't know what you mean. They think on the phone, someone sent you a text, but you're talking an actual, a biblical thing, a writing of Chabad. So I wanted to think about how your game and your story would have translated. Obviously, your greatness and your basketball ability would have been the same, but could you ever imagine growing up and having the stardom thrust upon you at such an early age in the world of social media now, where, the internet is a sensation for kids in their backyard who make a trick shot? I mean, let alone a story of yours who's representing the Jewish people and, taking basketball to a level where it's never been seen before at that age. Like, have you ever thought about between the social media aspect and the training that these kids get now, going to camps, specializing in basketball? Like you said, you were on the sideline, you were dribbling, you were teaching yourself how to be great. That was in something internal in you. So putting that together with the world we live in, have you ever, thought about how that would have affected your situation?
Well, I recently ran into one of the top sports media professionals. He has a really big public relations company, one of the most successful ones in America. And he said, Tamir, he just let you know, other than Will Chamberlain, Allen Iverson, and LeBron James, he's like, there's never been a high school basketball player with as much media attention that you had. And the greatness about my journey was that I had the right people around me to always shield me from whatever as much as possible I didn't need to hear or read about. And I also had the Jewish education that always taught me this isn't about me. This is really about Israel, and this is about the Jewish people. And that's why when Sports Illustrated came, they were taking pictures of me in my backyard. They asked me to dunk, they asked me to shoot. And I stopped them during the photo shoot. And I said, I know millions of people are going to see this magazine. And I know that, you're an NBA photographer, but this isn't about me. This is really about Israel. This is about the Jewish people. And I want to represent that. And I went down to my room, and even though it was the afternoon, I put my tefillin back on and I said, this is how I pray. And this is what this is about. This isn't about me. So I had that education, which kind of got a lot off of my shoulders and made it a lot easier for me during the good times and the bad times. And never going to be able to really understand what that meant, that whole journey and all the media. I'm almost 40 years old now, and I still can't wrap my head around it. So no, I can't imagine what it would be like today, where everything I went through would have been even magnified even more.
Right.
But it was a different time. And in some ways it was, I tell the kids, you're lucky you could watch Kyrie Irving doing a great move, right? And you could watch that same move a million times on YouTube until you get it right. I said, for us, we watched it, we saw it once, maybe one instant replay, maybe the next morning it would be at the end of Sports Center for a second. So it was in our mind, but then it lived with us in our heart. We couldn't see it over and over again, but it became one with us. I remember when Michael Jordan switched the ball from his right hand to his left hand and laid that up against the Lakers. I lived with
right.
that. That wasn't something that, So the kids nowadays are like watching it over and over again. We lived it. So in a certain way, you know, like when you read Sports Illustrated back in the day, it meant so much to you because like that's all you had for like a week, basically. You know,
Right.
Now you're bombarded with so many moves, so many players. So you see more. It's like exaggerated more, but I'm not sure if it like as impactful as it was back in the day in a certain way.
Right. Like
Yeah,
a magazine right now is null and void. I mean, people like, it's yesterday's news. You put it in print and it's already been, happened like 3 hours ago, which is, in the way past at this point already. So
yeah,
you're
you're making me feel old because we're the exact same age, and you're talking about like yesteryear, and I'm like, oh yeah. But I do remember when you were coming up. I mean, we're in the same grade, and hearing about
you
story,
never faced each other in any All-Star games or no?
No, remember I played floor hockey, the pretend yeshiva
Tamir, that's
sport.
not really a sport, floor hockey.
It's
Jews
like
invented that, just so you know.
It's similar to another sport.
Right.
But listen, obviously there are things different, and we've talked about this on other shows, like how there are high school players that have like 200,000 Instagram followers. I mean, like crazy stuff, and the access, and what people are able to see, and now almost the attention. There's almost no attention to college basketball because really the top recruits, when you talk about the top 25 recruits in the country, they're in college basketball for a cup of tea, and then they're off to the NBA. So really, scouting now is high school. I mean, that's what people pay attention to. That's what people are looking at. You said when you were 9 or 10 years old, and Ari said, oh, it's so young. I mean, that's not very far off from kind of how it goes today. By 11, 12, 13, I mean, you're on the scene. For you, obviously you had dreams of playing Division I college basketball. And of course, on this show already, we've had Coach Steinmetz of YU, and they just put out the rankings again last night. And, YU's moved up to the number 4 team in Division III. And, they have this guy named Ryan Terrell, who's a pretty good basketball player. Do you think seeing that today, is that something that might have been on your radar had Yeshiva been what Yeshiva is today? Or would you still have had your hopes a little bit higher?
Yeah, like I'm very close with the program, very close with Coach Steinmetz. I've had the great opportunity to train a really high percentage of the players on that team during their gap years here in Israel or at camps and stuff. And I am a huge fan. And Coach Steinmetz he's built a Division I program there, both in the classroom and what they're doing. It is so hard to win. I think it's 34 games in a row right now.
35.
I mean,
35
as of last night.
35 as of last night. Like that, I am their biggest fan, and I would have loved to be part of a program like that. And the reason that I played Division I basketball wasn't for me at all. My only motivation in playing Division I basketball was to show the world that you could play Division I without playing on Shabbat. I wanted to break that door down. I actually had a professional contract offer, to not play in college and just to come right out of high school and go pro in Israel. And I said no, because I want to show the world that you could play Division I without playing on Shabbat, so that years later, if another kid wants to do it, they'll be able to use my journey, hopefully, as like a way to tell their coach, say, hey, it's been done before. I don't want to play on Shabbat. That was my motivation. But looking at what YU's doing right now, I mean, what an unbelievable program. I love the way they play. I love the way they handle themselves off the court. I love, what they're accomplishing in the community. I love every single thing about it. And I'm so proud of those guys.
Right. So, Tamir, obviously you had a real sense of maturity at a young age because, most kids at that age, they're just thinking, how did that not go to your head? I mean, being on Sports Illustrated, and like I'm older than both of you guys, but like that was the granddaddy of them all. Sports Illustrated, like you said, it came out, you looked forward to it all week. And then for you to be on the cover of a national magazine, probably the biggest sports magazine there was at that time.
Oh, and being compared to this guy named Jordan.
Right, exactly right. You also had that Jewish Jordan, that handle. So how did that not? Obviously, you said your family really helped keep you grounded and I guess maybe sheltered somewhat, but amongst your community and everything else, how did that keep you level-headed to really have the wherewithal to see that this is about more than basketball? It's about my religion, my faith, and you're really helping show the world about that.
Yeah, it's really like what you said. It's my family. You know, my Savta, she just passed away last year. My grandmother was a Holocaust survivor. She lived with us most of the year. My father, of blessed memory, was like the first Jewish lawyer in America to wear his kippah in court. Coach Katz just was everything to me. The way he taught me how to play the game, what the game represents, taking me to play against the best of the best every single opportunity. You know, when I was 15 years old already, I was playing in college games every night in the summer with him, every single night, like playing one-on-one against college players, 21, 22-year-olds, open runs with them, running up to New York, playing in a Hunter League against Speedy Claxton, running up to New York, playing for the Far Rockaway Sky Riders with like Ben Gordon's on the other side of the court. Yeah, right. Ben Gordon, like we would just go up and back in the same day. I'm playing in Towson Catholic Summer League with Carmelo Anthony. Like every single night, just, you know, pushing myself and he would always guide me with the right intention. And I remember one night just crying. Summer night, we were late at night, we were playing at a college, playing one-on-one against somebody, and I just couldn't. It was just too hard for me. It was just, I was exhausted, and they were stronger and faster, and they were stripping the ball away from me. And I went up for a layup, and I just got so frustrated. I slammed my hand up against the padding behind the basket, and I was crying. I was just crying. And coach comes over to me. He's like, "Hey, you know, you don't need to do this. We could just pick up and go home right now, you know, but do you want to do this or not? Because if you want to do it, you're going to have to be able to play against guys at this level. You're going to have to be able to play against the speed. You're going to have to be able to play against this type of strength. So what do you want to do? You want to be here or not? Let's just go home." I'm like, "I want to do it." So he said, "Pick yourself up and go back out there and play." And I grew up in that energy of, you know, what's my intention? Why am I doing this? And no matter what happens, you just can't knock me down, because it's not about me. It's about something bigger than myself. That's the way I was raised. I can't take any credit for that.
Was the NBA ever a goal for you?
The NBA wasn't really I tried to win every day. I tried to win it. I know the NBA was scouting me. I definitely know that. I was invited to NBA camp. I was there for a week. I had a phenomenal week. I played really well there. Met a lot of NBA personalities and coaches. But I went through a lot after in high school, which included having to transfer to a predominantly African American Christian school. I'm Seventh Day Adventist Christian school, because they didn't play on Shabbat either. That was a really big adjustment. That was a really hard challenge, but I ultimately, you know, had a great end of my senior year, because I got invited to play in the Capital Classic All-Star game, won the MVP of that game, gave the scholarship back to Maryland and everything that happened there. Finally got a home at Towson, moved in with a Muslim roommate, got my first start against Villanova, had 13 points and 6 assists. I had a great freshman year. They told me they were going to build a team around me during spring break. I won the coaches award, and, you know, I had great games against Michigan. Just, you know, really, really everything was great. But then coach got fired. The new coach came in. He physically assaulted me after 3 or 4 months of just terrible verbal abuse and trying to change games to being on Shabbat and just completely breaking me and taking away my dream. And he broke me down. You know, thank God the police were there. They took me out. They saved me. Went to the police station, but it just absolutely destroyed me. That it just brought me down physically, emotionally, and spiritually. I couldn't understand how I finally got to my goal, and one person took that away from me. And
you were all, what, 20 years old?
19.
Right.
19 years
wow.
old. Yeah. And I was on Dean's list. I won all these awards academically. Like, even though I so dyslexic, like I did everything. I was living the dream, leading our team in assists as a freshman, already breaking records at Towson as a freshman. Like, you know, having double doubles. Like, it was crazy in Division I basketball, you know, and everything was great. Didn't have to play on Shabbat. And then spring break came and new coach came in, and it was just it just crushed me. And then things around campus were getting really bad. It was during the second intifada. People were saying really bad things about Israel. My mezuzah was getting knocked off my door. My gear was getting stolen from the locker room. All these crazy things. Did you have
teammates? Did you have teammates that supported you? Because obviously a team is an environment of a brotherhood, I would assume. I mean, I know.
So the night that it happened, the final night, and I had warned the athletic director, and I said, I know coach doesn't want me here. I'm really scared. And he's like, nah, we want you. I can show you everything's gonna be fine. So the night that incident happened in the locker room, my original teammates, in other words, everyone who was there with me from freshman year, they all stuck up for me in the police report and everything. And then the new players, they said, oh, we didn't see anything. Because they
were recruited by the new coach. Right.
Right. So they were, even though we were all in the same locker room, they all told the police, oh, we missed it. We didn't see anything, even though the coach was like 6'4", 6'5", 250, and it happened like right in front of them. But whatever.
Hard to miss.
To answer your question, I somehow I picked myself up, and I picked myself up because I said, Hashem brought me to this world to do good through basketball, and I can't let someone take me away from that. I can't let someone break me. And that's how I picked myself up. And I got the phone call from David Blatt. And Coach David Blatt and I we knew each other already. We knew each other. And he's like, look, we read about you in the paper. Do you want to come to Israel and play professional? And I said, Coach, I would love to do that. But, what's the next steps? So he's like, I'm friendly with the coach at Princeton. Go work out at Princeton for the day with the team. And if he tells me you're good enough, because by that point he hadn't seen me in a year, I'm going to fly in from Israel, and I'll meet you at Chelsea Piers for a one-on-one tryout. So I go up to Princeton, play with the team, do really well. Coach puts me through a workout there. He's really impressed. He calls up Coach Blatt. He's like, you got to see this kid play. So coach is like, all right, I'm flying into New York. I go up to Chelsea Piers. He rents out the place for an hour. And I know some players might be watching this, so I'll share some of the things that happened in that tryout. He's like, a couple things that I remember that really stuck out. He's like, run baseline to baseline. And he timed me, all right? He's like, run baseline to baseline with the right-hand dribble. Boom, he times me. Run baseline to baseline with the left-hand dribble, and he times me. Even though I was a righty, I was fastest pushing the ball up and down the court with my left hand than I was without a ball or then with my right hand, because that's how much I worked on my left hand.
Right. It was all those years in the park.
Like, yeah. And then he's like, let me see you dunk. What I do an alley-oop 360. Then he wasn't impressed. He's like, I want to see you dunk off your right foot with your left hand. Can you dunk with your left hand, even though I was a righty? And that's the type of things that he was looking for. And I got the 3-year deal to play for Maccabi Tel Aviv right after 1 hour in Chelsea Piers.
Now you were still in college at the time?
I had left. Towson told me that I dropped the charges. They said you could just take classes, but I wasn't part of the team. So I would just go to school. I left Muhammad. I left my roommate. I left the team. I would just go to class and come home. I was broken. It took me like 6 months to pick myself up. But that point, okay, the stuff that was being written in the media, nobody was in that locker room other than the team. Nobody knew the truth. And they were saying, oh, Tamir's too weak. Tamir's a gimmick. Tamir's this, Tamir's that. And nobody knew the truth. Nobody knew that I won the coach's award for best performance on and off the court just months before that. And that they were building the program around me. And they had no idea what led up to the new coach doing that. They don't even know what he did to me the months leading to the whole thing. And all the anti-Israel stuff that I was experiencing. When Israel called, I said, I'm ready. I want to move in. My
You're ready to go home.
My Savta lives there. I'm going to move in with her. I did it. My goal was to show the world you could play Division I basketball without playing on Shabbat. I did it. Now, what's next?
Right. I have a question, Tamir. So who would you say, you mentioned, obviously Carmelo. I know you played with Michael Sweetney in that Capital Classic, obviously all-stars in that game. Who would you say was, 2 questions, the greatest name-wise of player you played against, and who was the toughest player you competed against? It could be, I think that could be a different answer.
Yeah, the biggest name is obviously Carmelo. He's had the greatest career out of anyone my age coming out of Baltimore. Melo really did it, and he's still doing it, which is unbelievable.
Right. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I think he almost had 30 points last night, by the way.
Yeah,
he's still doing it.
Yeah, he's amazing. But like the person, who I had to guard a lot, I would say, and that was just unbelievable. His name was Anthony Parker. He played for Maccabi Tel Aviv.
Sure.
And then he came back to America wearing number 18, even though he's not Jewish. playing for the Raptors and the Cavs. His sister's Candace Parker from TNT.
I was going to say he may not be the best in his family.
Right.
I was going to say.
Yeah. So he was just. They say he's the greatest player to ever play in Europe. Maybe now it's Luka, I would say, but before him, I think it was Anthony Parker, and he's an amazing human being. But he was just the hardest person to guard for me in practice, I would say.
Right. Well, that actually brings us another thing. So I know that you're friendly and you've helped Amari Stoudemire a lot with his transformation, I guess, to he played in Israel and obviously his story now becoming an observant Jew. I mean, how did you? I mean, I believe hopefully I'm not speaking out of line. How did you develop a relationship with him? And was there a lot of, obviously your story, you had to go through a lot. I can imagine on his end also, changing his whole life and his whole background, perhaps he like sought you for some advice on that and, how to balance both worlds.
So I think I'm not mistaken, it might have started through my tzitzis. I have a line of sports tzitzis. I think someone told him about my sports tzitzis years ago when he was first, reconnecting to his roots, and we managed to like get him some tzitzis. It started just with the tzitzis.
You had him that big for a guy 6'10"? I mean, whew.
Yeah, no, they're like high performance materials. They stretch. So it worked out well. And then it ends up being that Hapoel Jerusalem, the team that I've been working for the last 7 seasons in Jerusalem, he started off as an owner, but then he said he was going to come out of retirement and play for the team. And I was on the staff here at Hapoel. And his time in Jerusalem, obviously he was amazing on the court, but he really started going to yeshiva and, spending time in our area here. And I'll tell you what I told him, which is obviously he's had a most incredible NBA career, and everyone's like amazed by that. But in a lot of ways, I'm more proud, or it's more impressive for me to see the courage to do what he's doing now than what it took to be an NBA star. And
right.
It's not easy to do what he's doing. It's not easy, and he's doing it, and it takes a tremendous amount of courage and identity, and it's very special to see in a lot of ways.
Right, absolutely. So you played in Israel. What was your greatest achievement in college and also and professionally? What would you say? Besides, and I mean more than obviously, wearing your yarmulke in that part. I'm saying professionally, athletically, what do you think was your greatest achievement at both levels?
Okay, so I'd say my greatest achievement at Towson, I basically only played 1 year. My freshman year was March 1st. It was we were trying to get into the big dance, and we made it to the conference semifinals. Meaning, if we would have won that game, we make it to the conference championship, and we're in the big dance. We're literally 2 games away from the big dance. I'm 2 games away from the big dance.
Right.
Literally. And the game came out on a Friday night, and I made an announcement that I wasn't going to play, and I sat out the biggest game of my life. But the greatest achievement to me was I stayed at a different hotel than the team, because if they would win without me on Friday night, I was closer to the arena. I could walk over on Saturday night and play the second half because Shabbat was over at halftime. And if they lose on Friday night, I'd just go back to Maryland somehow, get a ride. And my greatest accomplishment was that Friday night in the game that I didn't play in. My teammates came to my hotel room, and they told me that they won the game. They won the conference semifinal for me and for Shabbat. They respect so much that I didn't play in that game that night. That was for me probably the greatest sports moment of my life that I'll always remember.
Right.
I just couldn't believe that amount of respect for Shabbat after the biggest game of their life, and they had to go over scouting report for the nenext night. They had to eat, rest, everything, and
right.
They
turnaround is right quickly.
Yeah, they said they told the bus driver, stop the bus. We got to find Tamir. It's just, I can't believe it till today that they did that.
That is unbelievable. Wow.
In Israel, my rookie year in Israel, I got traded, and we ended up playing against where we make it to the Final Four. And the player who's in front of me is a captain, Israeli national team. He was like 11-year pro vet, like one of the best Israeli point guards. And in the second quarter, it's the biggest game in the club's history. I make 2 3-pointers in the second quarter, and then I don't play at all in the third. I'm a rookie. I don't play at all in the fourth.
Right.
And with a couple seconds to go in the game, this point guard in front of me tears his hamstring, and he can't move. And they have no choice but to put me in the game. Now, throughout the entire game, while I was on the bench, I didn't play since the second quarter. I was in the game even though I wasn't in the game. In other words, they ran a set, ran up whatever it was. I ran it in my head. Like, even though I was on the bench, I was totally in the game.
You were ready.
So I get in the game, and they deny everybody the ball. It's our ball under the basket, opposite our basket, like full court length. And they say, their coach says, we're going to deny everyone the ball and let the rookie catch it. We're going to foul him. He's going to miss the one-on-one. We're going to get the ball and have a chance to win the game. And that's what happens. Ref blows the whistle. They deny the ball, and I'm the only guy open. They pass it into me. 5 guys foul me. They send me one-on-one. You can't even imagine how many thousands of people. I mean, this club's, how much money, just the amount of pressure was insane. But all I could think of was my father came that night. My father came from America, and it was his first time ever seeing me play professionally. My father, blessed memory, who did everything for me, everything throughout my journey.
You weren't letting him down.
And I just, before I shot the ball, I said, please, Hashem, Pop's here. We gotta do this. And even though I couldn't even see the basket, I made both free throws. We won the game, and we advanced to the championship for the first time in club history. And that was the biggest moment of my professional career. And then, unfortunately, very soon after that, my knee gave out, and I played for another 5 or 6 years, but it was mostly just coming back and rehabbing and surgery. But like I said about Amari, I'm a lot prouder of the second part of my career than I was the first part, because the first part, I worked hard, but Hashem blessed me. I was healthy, and I was able to play well. Really, after my freshman year at Towson, I had 1 rookie season in Israel, and then my knee was never the same. And I never gave up. I never gave up until I couldn't even walk up the stairs anymore, or pick up my kids, or how I live today, which is always in pain. But I never quit. I did every surgery possible, and I'm very proud of that.
Right. Well, it's funny. You would never know you're in pain, because just in our brief interactions, and I've spoken to you even before the podcast, you're such an upbeat person and such positivity that, it runs through your veins, and you can feel it. So the inspiration that you give, it's felt. And, I'm 46, 47. And, obviously I was older than you, but
you're not sure.
I mean, I'm not sure. I don't know. You kind of get older in the years. You kind of forget, where you're at. You have to start doing math.
Shave 1 or 2.
Right.
Okay, that's good.
So inspiration, obviously, is something that Hashem, bless you with to give to others, which is obviously what we see. But I wanted to, bring back one thing in your career. So you played in Baltimore, and that wasn't, the Yeshiva League, how it is here on the East Coast, where we have, the predominant Jewish high schools.
Did you ever play on the East Coast, right?
Right, I know, but they didn't have a Yeshiva League. Even now, they don't. They play in the public school leagues. Did you ever play? I know tournaments back then were few and far between. Did you ever play against any of the high schools in the East Coast of the in the Yeshiva League in tournaments or anything like that?
Yeah, first of all, the big knock on us at TA originally was, that we were playing public schools and private schools, but it wasn't true. People were saying we weren't really playing anyone. So then coach went out of his way to make us play against the top teams. And he's purposely scheduled a game against one of the best teams in Baltimore at the time. They were unbelievable. And I ended up having 40 points, 24 points in the third and fourth quarter alone. And that was the game that really told everybody and everyone in Baltimore that the Jewish team is a real deal. These guys are amazing. And we had such an amazing team and so well coached. I think we were 65-11, my 2 years at TA and playing against really good teams, which was great. But, we also had a chance to come up to YU, to the tournament in 10th grade and in 11th grade. And I really enjoyed the tournament because it really did prepare me for college basketball, because just being in the hotels, being with your team the whole day, the meals, going to the game, it's like, that's exactly what happens in college, balancing your schoolwork when you're on the road, so literally like, I guess like, a year or a year and a half after playing in Sarachek, I'm doing the same thing, but it's like, now it's like we're playing Michigan, I'm the scouting report. It's like, tomorrow we're playing Michigan.
The same thing is fresh, right?
And it's just, it really like got me ready, because that's kind of like what happened in college basketball. So I did get a chance to play against the Jewish teams, and the whole Sarachek tournament was something that I'll always cherish and remember. And just to be up in New York and see the kosher restaurants and see Shabbat in New York, it was really great for us coming from Maryland. I mean, now the Jewish community in Maryland is much bigger. For us at the time, it was very special, and we really enjoyed it.
How'd you guys do at Sarachek?
Sorry?
How'd you guys do at Sarachek?
We did well. I don't remember the exact where we finished.
It sounds like it wasn't a championship, because he would remember.
We did not win the championship. I can't remember if I think maybe we lost in the championship one year, or I don't know. Our center got hurt the first year, broke his leg. The second year, some other stuff happened. In general, I have really good memories from it. I'm not really good at stats and numbers, and I'm very dyslexic and wins and losses and things like that. In general, like, people remind me of stuff all the time. I'll tell you this: I had 53 points at one game in Sarachek, one of the games, and we get in the locker room, and my coach says, "Man, he's looking at the stat sheet. He's like 53." And I raised my hand. I promise you, I raised my hand and I said, "Coach, who had 53?" He said, "You did." I had no idea. Like, I had zero idea.
The next highest player probably had like 11, and you had.
It's just not how I played or what I thought about when I was playing. It just, I'm not a good numbers guy.
That's unbelievable. So do you know what your top number in a game was? Do you know that?
In high school?
Ever?
In high school, yeah. I had a couple games over 50, maybe 2 or 3 games over 50 in high school.
That's unbelievable. Ari, does anyone, can you recall in all the games? Does anyone come close to 50?
No. If you hit 20, that's considered a lot of points. I can't imagine anyone
in
30's
like phenomenal even today.
Right. 50 is, and by the way, there was a 3-point line, Tamir, right? When you were playing, there was.
Yes.
We already had it.
Ari,
right?
we're not as old as you are.
You guys could call Coach Katz. He knows all the stuff. I think I was like 139 for 147 at the free throw line. My junior year of high school, something like he has all that. I'm not. I've never been. I'm way too dyslexic for all that stuff.
Now, obviously, you got all the hype on the high school teams you played on. How good was the team around you? So let's say, Tamir Goodman's not on that team. Are they playing some of these top teams? How good was everybody else?
Well, we were just so well coached that Coach Katz is just such a brilliant basketball mind that nothing would surprise me what he would be able to accomplish. He's the greatest basketball mind I've ever come across in any level and anywhere I've ever played. Yes. And he's the guy that raised me. That's why Hashem, I keep telling it, I can't really take credit. I just happened to grow up in the right place. If I would have grown up somewhere else, I don't know if this would have happened. The amount of basketball knowledge I had by the time I was 9 or 10 years old from watching film with him almost on a nightly basis, and him teaching me things. And, I'm at his house and Bobby Knight is calling on the other line and they're talking,
general
highest levels of basketball. It's like, that's the environment that I grew up in. And not to mention like all the other coaches, I had a physical father, but I have had so many spiritual fathers, so many ex-players, ex-NBA guys that grew up in Maryland that would train me, that would work out with me, and that would, like I'd make a move one time against a guy and he just look at coach on the sideline and say, "Look, let me tell you something. The last person to do that to me was Rex Chapman. I'm telling you, this kid, and then he'll be like, here's what you got to do, and then there's like a whole group of like college guys and coaches. I can never thank people enough. I grew up in the best environment. It's just the best basketball environment with the best mentors.
Right. It shows what a great family can help, push you in anything, not just basketball. Obviously, to have that support, you can go, chase your dreams, do everything you can. What would you tell kids these days, if they have these aspirations and they really, there obviously are exceptional ball players, Jewish, ball players who are pretty amazing. If they have dreams of really taking their game to the next level, and Ryan Terrell was obviously someone who had Division I scholarships and he chose to go to YU. But what advice would you give them to help pursue the dream and how to get there and make it a reality?
Yeah, I think that Hashem gives people blessings to use them, not to ignore them. And if Hashem gave you a basketball talent, it's part of your service of Hashem to fulfill that to the highest level possible and reach your potential. And I would do everything possible to take care of your body, take care of your soul, be around great people, put yourself in a situation, be successful, learn how to become really resilient, have a healthy self-confidence, play for something higher than yourself, be very regimented, work at getting better every single day, enjoy the journey, and never be ashamed of who you are. Be proud of who you are.
That's a lot of good advice packed into one sentence. That's great. For those,
right, Tamir. Sorry. Go ahead, Jay.
For those that don't know, what are you doing now? So obviously, your professional career ended, but basketball did not. So what are you doing now?
I basically have a sports consulting company. I worked for Hapoel Jerusalem the last 7 seasons. I'm doing some scouting for 2 NBA teams. I have an overnight basketball camp in Jerusalem every summer where we bring NBA players and coaches to come to Jerusalem and players from around the world. I invented a training aid called Zone 190, which is being used in the NBA now, and it's allowed me to coach some really incredible NBA floors. And I do a lot of speaking engagements, and I'm now about to release another product that I've been working on, and I work a lot with a lot of Israeli sports tech startups and things like that.
Yeah, and Tamir doesn't sleep, by the way. Anytime, Jay, I told you this the other night when you told me I texted him. It's 4 a.m. I said he'll respond. I go, he is up and about.
I looked at my phone. I said, why are you texting? It's 4 o'clock in the morning in Israel, and then response, boop.
Right.
Yeah, no, 4 o'clock is my special hour. I start every day working out and learning Torah at the same time. That's like my favorite thing. Like I work out and listen to Torah. Then I pray, take the dog out, and then help the kids get started for the day.
So how much sleep do you get a night?
Not much, but I don't need it. I don't need it.
You don't need it. You're ready to roll. That's amazing. I had one last question. I know you have a very busy schedule. So you wore number 22. Is there any meaning behind that number, or was that just a number that kind of came to you?
22, because my older brother Reuven wore 22, and he was my hero growing up, and I wanted to honor him. And it just became like a big thing in our family, number 22, because of that. And now my son is wearing number 22 here for the team in Jerusalem. And something that is just, I always say, like, we're connected in this world, but we're also connected a little bit to the higher worlds. And my father's yortzeit is on the 22nd day of Tammuz, Chodesh Tammuz. So, I mean, it's unbelievable. Yeah.
Ari, you might not know this, but I wore number 22 in my basketball years. Which ended at 13.
Yeah, your story would make about a 30-second podcast, not an hour.
No, basically, it was a short career.
So Coach Katz really liked Indiana basketball when we were growing up. He was very close with Coach.
I know where you're going. I know where you're going with 22. Damon Bailey.
Damon Bailey, yeah. So my brother, I guess that's where it started, but then our families really kept it going, and it's just every time I see my son now with a 22, but like he's playing for Jerusalem, it's just like, wow, I can't.
How old is your son?
I thought we have 5 kids, thank God. My son is 13 and a half. He's a very committed player, I would say.
All right, so he's 13 and a half. How does he compare to your game at 13 and a half? What do you see?
He's better, and I think I think the players nowadays are better. I know it's very hard for older generation, older players to say, oh, back in the day, you should have seen me. You should have, what we were doing in the 80s and 90s, it was so physical. It's all okay. I get it. But the newer generation is way more skilled, in my opinion.
For sure. And that has to do with the camps and everything.
Yeah, they're doing moves by the time they're 13, 14 that we didn't do it. We didn't even, maybe when we got to college, we learned how to do it. And they're doing it. They're so far advanced. They're moving out there. They're doing things that we would have never even thought about doing. We would have considered it a bad shot, or we would have considered it impossible. And these guys are just doing it effortlessly. They're better.
Well, that's like, hello, Steph Curry. He's kind of invented that anything is possible. You have the ball in your hand and you can work on your range and your ball handling. And, anything is, like you said, not a terrible shot if you have a good shot.
Yeah. If you can make it, but the kids are better. They're better. They're better. They're better. They're better than we were. They're doing things that they took what we did and they made it better. They advanced. Just like everything else in the world advances. These guys are doing things on a nightly basis that they're better than us. They're more skilled.
Right. You actually, and I know I said I just had one more question. I thought of two more.
Never
I'm sorry.
Say I have one more question. I mean,
right, exactly.
Kiss of death.
So you casually mentioned David Blatt. So for everyone who's not familiar with him, he actually coached the Cleveland Cavaliers and coached a guy named LeBron James. You might have heard of him. So obviously he knows a thing or two about basketball. And for him to seek you out and tell you to come play professionally in Israel obviously is a big deal. The other question I had was, so you were, got the nickname Jewish Jordan. Did you ever meet or have any conversations with Michael Jordan at any time during the rise of your story?
So two things. First, with Coach Blatt, who's a dear friend, and I love him. He needs a refuah shlema, so everyone should just keep him in mind. He's one of my spiritual fathers that I mentioned to you. I've had a lot of spiritual fathers in my life. He's an amazing, amazing guy and coach, and I hope Hashem helps him. His son, Tamir Blatt, is unbelievably talented. He plays for Hapoel Jerusalem, and he's also the point guard for the Israeli national team. So he's an amazing player. And
he's got a great name also.
Tamir Blatt, yeah. And then as far as the Jewish Jordan, like I can't say this is true because I wasn't there, but when I won the most valuable player of the Capital Classic, the Wizard, like Michael Jordan at the time, was one of the owners of the Wizards, and he mentioned at the game that he was in the press room. I wasn't there. One of the reporters told me, Michael Jordan just mentioned you and said he was interested in watching you play tonight, but that he wasn't going to be able to watch the game. But I can't say it's true.
Right. Well, it sounds great. We're going to say it's true.
Yeah.
But I can tell you when I got on the court that game, the Wizards were coming off the court because we had practice in the morning. We got on the practice while they were coming off, and Rod Strickland, who at the time was one of the best point guards in the NBA, he came over to me and he's like, as I'm coming on the court, he's like, "Hey, are you that Jewish kid that I read about in the paper?" I said, "Why?" He said, "Because I bought a ticket. I'm coming back tonight to watch you play." And we come back that night. Rod Strickland sitting at half court, and I go over to Coach Cat.
He bought a good ticket.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they probably took care of him. But I go over to Coach before the game, Coach Katz. I'm like, "You got any last second pointers here before this game starts? I'm freaking out here. These are best players in the world." And he says, "First of all, go show your Hakarat Tov to Rod Strickland. He's right there. Go tell him thank you for coming." So I run over there, I shake his hand, I say, "Thank you so much for coming." I come back to Coach Katz, and he's like, "Yeah, don't take any extra dribbles tonight. You'll be all right." And I said, "All right, thanks."
Thanks. I'll go deal with all the pressure myself now.
It really is unbelievable you were able to handle those things at 15, 16, 17 years old. I mean, I have kids about your age. I can't even imagine them dealing with that kind of I mean, it really is unbelievable, and it's an incredible. It says a ton about your character and your personality and how you're brought up. It's truly amazing.
Tamir, as a father watching your son play, are you? I mean, you seem calm, cool, and collected in most things you do. But how does that work when you're watching your son play? Are you the same? Because I know, watching when I watch my kids play, it's like, you're a tension ball. You're just like, because you can't control anything, right? You want the best, but you just have to watch and let them, do their thing. How are you as a parent watching your son, especially at a high level that he plays at?
I had a great example in my father of blessed memory. He never, ever, ever, I can't even remember one game, high school, college, or professional, that he mentioned something to me about basketball after the game, ever. Now, he had an ear, like if I wanted to say something,
right?
But he never, not during the game. It was just after the game. It was all unconditional love. And yeah, that's the way I am with Matanel. Like I never, I just try to be, I'm just an unconditional love him unconditionally as a father, as any other father. And, so far there's only been one time in my whole time watching him that I ever said anything. And he had just gotten back on the court after a broken wrist. We just got the cast off. And he goes up, and it was like the worst call that I've ever seen in my life. They called offensive foul, even though it was such a bad call and a terrible block. And he almost broke his wrist again on that play. And it was just the wrist. I was worried about the wrist. And I just like yelled out like something like, oh my God, like it was more the wrist than the basketball. But
right.
That's
You're worried about his well-being.
I've ever done so far. And then he kind of looked up at the stands and said something like Abba, like, and then when he did that, I was more proud of him than ever, because like I always stress the sportsmanship above everything. And his sportsmanship is the most beautiful part of his game. And I'm most proud of that. So
nachas, you should have much nachas from him and all your children, obviously, because this is, that's an example for us parents too, just to let your kids, follow their dreams and be who they are. And obviously your son has a role model, as such as yourself, which is, something he gets to see every day. So that's testament to you, your family, your the whole mishpacha. I mean, growing up and everyone you surrounded yourself with. So I just want to thank you so much again for accommodating us and being so great and sharing your story here at the tip off. It's just, it's inspirational as it was back when I was a kid and, heard it then, and just to hear it now and to just see your life has not only continued, but flourished as you've gone further on. And, God willing, should take this journey as far as it takes you. And we wish you only the best in the future.
Thank you. And thank you for thinking of me, and blessings to everybody in New York or wherever you're listening. And Hashem should bless you with only good news and good things for everybody. And Chag Kasher v'Sameach, it's almost Pesach.
Oh, man. So Pesach is coming. It's coming quick.
Well, actually, when this episode comes out, I think it'll be about a week and a half away, right, Ari?
Right. Yeah. We're going to get our matzah ready.
There you go. Helps you with the jump shot.
Right. Exactly.
Thanks, Tamir.
We'll take it.
Tamir Goodman. Wow. All right. I think for me, big takeaway from Tamir, and you could only say so much good to his face. I mean, he's such a humble guy.
Isn't that I told you, right? When speaking to him, it's just like you would never have thought that someone who grew up with greatness in the palm of his hands, right? I mean, at such an early age would be such a humble, inviting, engaging person, and just, so warm.
Yeah, and he mentioned a couple times, his dyslexia. I mean, that was obviously a learning disability that he had to deal with growing up, on top of, everything else that he had to deal with, all the pressure put on him, at such a young age. Elliot Steinmetz told us, pressure's a privilege. I mean, the way in which he handled pressure, you could tell just from this interview, is truly remarkable. And I think biggest takeaway for me is, obviously, if you followed Tamir's story closely, but not that closely, and you kind of read the byline, it's, well, here's this kid who grew up with all this promise, got a scholarship to, I believe at the time, Maryland was either the number 3 or number 4 school in the country.
They were number 1. They were coming off a national championship, I believe.
All right. I mean, usually your numbers are wrong, and I read it last night, but that's okay. I read the
Sports Illustrated article yesterday. 22.
We'll look it up. Look it up. We'll have to put the article like right over there, when we put this out. All right. But anyway, a very good. Yes. There. All right. Yeah. a very good school. So, top 5,
Right.
At a minimum. And then, he gives up his scholarship to Maryland, goes to a lesser school, only plays a year. Obviously, he had issues with the coach.
But a lesser school is still Division I. I mean,
yes,
they were,
yes.
Yeah,
and then goes to Israel, only plays a year professionally and blows out his knee. And some might say, oh, he had so much hope and it just didn't work out. But when you talk to that guy, that is not the case.
No,
I mean, not only did he flourish, playing when he did play and did all the things that he told us about. I don't need to repeat it, but what he's been able to do with basketball afterwards. I mean, I think that's one of the things, growing up in a Jewish community, and not everyone is Tamir Goodman or Ryan Terrell or Gabe Leifer, but so many parents worry like, oh, you're going to put so much effort into basketball. What are you going to do after? And, Tamir is an example where he's made a career on sports. Somebody who could barely walk because of knee problems, but still, we joked with him about how you texted him at 4:00 in the morning and he was up. He wasn't. He was working out. The fact that he wakes up at 4:00 to work out every single day.
I guess that same desire to be great when he was young has stayed with him, right? That doesn't change as you get older. I mean, he does attack everything in his life with the same set of goals, that he wants to be the best of the best at what he does. And, it was basketball, then it's business, then it's being a father, being a husband. And it really has come, to fruition, and he's put that all together. And that, again, it's such a great, and it's funny because we had Jacob Steinmetz last week, and he talked about, or 2 weeks ago, and he talked about, his Division I scholarship and, the sacrifices he had to make. I mean, that's not even, it's just such a small micronism of what you have to do to really fulfill your dream. And like he said, you know what? These kids these days, they are better. I mean, kids who are not good can dribble behind their back. They can go through their legs. I mean, like,
and
you
also
said,
the size. I mean, generationally, people get bigger. I mean, that's just a
right.
fact.
I think he was 6'3", and that he wasn't he wasn't a big brawny guy. He was, kids back then, we didn't work out 20 hours a day or 5 times a week. The kids, it was different. So that's what he said. The game has evolved. It's gotten bigger. And it was interesting also what he said about Sarachek, as I was trying to understand, did he ever compete against any of the MTAs, the Frishes, the Hafters of the day, the older schools? And, he came to Sarachek, which he said still that was a big, big memory of his. I mean, that just shows you how much yeshiva basketball really was and still is, and is bigger and bigger every day.
Yeah, and he was transcendent. I mean, I was talking to my father last night before this interview, and he
I'm Aron.
No, that's me. Remember? Yeah, Mark Aron.
Oh, Mark. Who's no? Oh, you're right. You're alter egos. No,
right. Yeah. So no, but he said that he had gone to see Tamir play at Sarachek. I don't know if it was 10th or 11th grade that Tamir said he was there, but I mean, a transcendent guy. Like, he just, he had that ability to make people. I mean, while who goes to see a Sarachek game that you have no skin in the game at all, but.
Creep, but yeah,
coming from the king,
right, okay,
yeah,
shots fired.
But no, he just that time, and I told him, we're the same graduating class of high school, and you just remember hearing about this allegedly. They gave me a case. What was inside is unknown,
right.
But just his ability to just transcend and be this superstar, and to talk to him now and just see how absolutely humble he is and was even then,
Right.
And you brought up a good point. I mean, the fact that social media was not what it was back then was probably to the benefit of somebody like that,
For sure. I mean, it would have just been, I couldn't imagine. But also let's and I know we got to wrap things up ourselves, but let's talk about guests that we've had so far. We've had, a bunch of great guests. We've had Coach Elliot Steinmetz. We had Coach Ryan Coleman, Ashal Hevitt, Tamir Goodman. And we have a nice schedule coming up of upcoming guests as well. What?
We do.
But if you seriously reach out to Yeshiva League Pass, DM them on Instagram. If you are looking for someone, you want us to bring onto the podcast, let us know. Or if you have a story or something that we don't know about, anything with Judaism and Jewish athletics, or, any sport, it's something that we want to really bring to the forefront on this podcast. So reach out to us. Hit up the DMs and let us know.
And also, before we go, and I'll just bring them up quickly again, we want to thank our sponsors. And listen, we have a great time with our sponsors, especially the one on the screen right now, Holy Schnitzel, who takes care of us, not only with financial support, but with sustenance. I mean, feed a man. It's the
best of both worlds.
Yeah, listen.
Right?
But in all seriousness, our sponsors, our early sponsors came onto the program, and we didn't even show them an episode, and they were in. So, to come on at that level and show that kind of support is truly appreciated. So Holy Schnitzel, check them out. They're all over. They're in every Jewish community.
Everywhere.
I don't know if there's one in Maryland, Ari, but
there should be. But you can find us obviously on YouTube. Also, we're on Spotify, right?
Oh, that's right. As we go through here, we'll get to that in a second. So Morton's, of course, they got everything, apparel, trunks, swim trunks, underwear, as Ari pointed out, everything.
You name it, they have it.
Central Park. It's the dairy Holy Schnitzel. I mean,
I'm going to get my coffee there. I'm going to get my coffee there.
At all,
Sure.
but that's right. Adam B. Kaufman and Associates, according to Ari, they're global. That's truly unknown.
No, they are global.
And the Ballers Basketball Academy, who is so kind to sponsor this program.
Yes, come to the basketball camp. NBA players, ex-NBA players. Aron will be shooting. No, we're only having stars at that.
I will not be. No, definitely not. But to Ari's point, you can see this everywhere. If you're watching on YouTube right now, right in the description, you will see that we are on all of the audio platforms, Spotify, iTunes, all that good stuff. So click the link down there, subscribe, because when you subscribe, you'll know when new episodes come out. So subscribe here on YouTube, subscribe on Spotify, iTunes, wherever it is that you consume your podcast media. And we'll be back next week with another very, 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 very special guest.
Looking forward.
At the time of this recording, we're not exactly sure who it's going to be. We have options.
There's a couple of options.
We have options. So
we're going to have the brain trust is going to discuss which is numero uno, or which just kind of flows as the next best guest.
Yes. Now, I have no idea what that means, but with that, we'll leave you. Have a great week. And, until next time. See ya.